A lot of addiction issues. I was toxic
I'm
relationship.
over here failing as an entrepreneur. I'm over here trying to get something.
I didn't even know what the heck marketing was at that point.
Start telling yourself things that aren't necessarily true.
I never made decisions based on money because I didn't have it.
When my mother passed away, it was closing a chapter for me.
Hey guys, what's going on? Sal here, and welcome to the 7-Figure Interviews. I'm here today with Coulton Woods, the man, the myth, the legend. He is operation manager for Steve Larson's. If you haven't seen the opt-in course, go do it because it's amazing. And I kind of want to dive into the journey that's in back of it all. So, well, first of all, thank you so much for being on the show. It's awesome to have you.
Pleasure's mine, yeah.
So, how did you even get started? What was kind of your beginning point to like running everything? Like, how did this come about?
Ooh, that's a totally loaded question, but I love it. So actually, me and Steve met back in college. I don't know if you knew
No,
that or
I
not,
did not.
So back in college, I actually was running a brick and mortar cell phone and tablet repair store. And what's interesting about that is like I always wanted to be in business. I knew that was like my trajectory or my path on life was to somewhere be just a business owner and helping other people. And what's interesting is I came across Steve at school, and I'm like still kicking myself that I didn't meet him earlier because we went to school like the same years, time, all that.
Everything.
And I met him like a year and a half before we graduated. So I was like, dude, how come we couldn't meet earlier, you know? But we ended up meeting, and I remember he was kind of standoffish because he was doing some stuff. He's a killer. You know Steve.
Yeah.
He's a killer. He was doing some stuff. And what's funny is like a lot of people knew him, and then a lot of people knew me for doing my business over here. But we never really like kind of collided those two for some reason. And I remember one time, I mean, we met a few times, and like, hey, you know, I wanted to get to know this guy because I see he's an A player. I see he's getting stuff done, you know. And after a few times of kind of meeting, I remember there was one time we were talking, and we were talking about marketing stuff, and like he's starting to realize that we kind of know a few things, you know, we overlap in the marketing area there. And I was like, bro, do you know this guy named Russell Brunson? And this is back in like 2014, you know,
All right.
maybe even, this was like right when ClickFunnels was
Just
kind
the
of
beginning.
just like the beginning of
All
it. And I actually Russell totally sold me on a webinar like before ClickFunnels.
Yeah,
I don't even
that
know
Russell
what.
webinars. He's
Yeah,
whoa.
He's
Amazing.
good at it. So I mentioned this to Steve, and he like his jaw like dropped. He's like, "You know who Russell is?" And I'm like, "Yeah, like you know who Russell is? Not many people know who Russell is right now." And it was like it was sold right there, you know, like solid. But what happened was after that, I actually ended up selling my business off.
Okay.
And I'm like, bro, I need to get on to the online space because this brick and mortar stuff's like, it's harder and it's killing me, and I wanna.
Especially in the tech space with the speed of advancement. I had computer stores. I don't know if you know that. I had 10 computer stores.
I didn't know that.
So as it started, like, you know, new stuff started coming out, competitive pricing started hitting. I lost all my profit margins. I was like, okay, next thing I went into was like service stuff. I was like, I'll network and I'll repair them. And then eventually it's like, there's just no money in it that you have to get into the online space. So what was that like? You found out that now you have this commonality, and it's so funny, right? Like this, it's just one thing, and you're like all of a sudden, damn, I need to do more with this person because of this one commonality thing. All right, so what happened then? You guys are like excited that both of you know about Russell and the tactics and direct marketing and all that stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, like he gets excited, and then we ended up start talking about what we're both doing, you know, because he's building funnels per se before ClickFunnels was even there.
Right.
And then I'm, you know, building my brick and mortar business, and I just sold it off, and I'm trying to go the online spot. And it was actually before I'd sold it off when we met him, but so we got talking.
Did meeting him and understanding, hey, you know, like this is working, did that give you the feeling of like, yes, I could do this too, it's time to close down? Because I know when I was in the process of closing, I sold a couple of stores that were doing well, and the other ones it was just a loss. And I say I sold my stores, but really I sold a couple that were doing well. The other ones were just I was just bleeding money ridiculously. Did that give you the extra kind of like,
Oh yeah.
it's the right time, I'm just gonna do it? Because it's hard, man, because I know opening up a store in general, there's a lot of things to look at, and like it's difficult. It's a difficult process. So what did that feel like for you when you were like, okay, I'm gonna close this down, I'm gonna sell, I'm just gonna get rid of it, and I'm gonna do something, because it's new, right? Like it's something new.
Oh yeah.
What was that like?
It's a completely different model, and so for me it was a lot of relearning and understanding, and like, okay, I'm used to doing things this way, I've got to completely pivot them to just a different way, and honestly, brick and mortar, I had strategies for building my own brick and mortar there that some of them pertain to online business.
Yeah, it's very relevant because it's still people, but
right. But it's like it's still totally different.
Vastly different.
And so seeing Steve, I'm like, I need to get to know this guy. And the whole Russell Brunson thing kind of like sealed the relationship right there, I feel like, at least. And then I'm like, all right, this is Steve, this is where I'm going, this is what I'm planning on doing. And he's like, bro, that's huge. And we kind of sat together and we wrote it all out. And he's like, bro, this is huge. So I was actually taking it online. I had the distribution channels. I knew a bunch of people, a bunch of repair stores.
So you had the connections already.
Right. And I'm like, this is my idea, is to take insurance for phones online and connect with all these stores and have them be my fix-it people.
Reps, yeah.
And all I do is collect it online and then send the
people
repairs
to whatever
needs
shop.
to those people, right? And he's like, bro, this is huge, So we're all getting excited. The entrepreneur.
Of course, everything is gonna succeed the first time.
I know, right? Like, we're both just like seeing it in our minds, and money's raining down from the ceilings, and you can't sleep at night because you're running through all this stuff, And
what's the next thing after that? They're gonna do this, and they're gonna wait. Yes, I'm there all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
So me and Steve got ClickFunnels together, first time. And our goal was like, all right, we have a 14-day free trial. We literally just like kissed our wives goodbye. And we're like, this 14 days, we prepared for it. And in 14 days, we built out an entire phone insurance funnel online.
Love it.
And it tanked. Of course, it was the first one,
And it's 14 days,
14 days,
It's a little time to build a really effective funnel.
So we thought we knew what we needed to know at the time, and we ended up breaking even on it. It was good for helping us pay for ClickFunnels and some costs, And then
I'm sure there was learning involved, right?
Oh, so much learning, and that's the key. Is that people don't realize, like, oh, I need to start this, but I'm gonna learn everything I can before I start it.
No.
And I'm like,
you learn more about failing than you do about succeeding or about just figuring it out first. Because honestly, we do. So I run laundry ad campaigns, right? I have a marketing agency, and no matter how much research we do, it doesn't matter. Like, I'll pay tens of thousands of dollars to research for huge campaigns. They're multi-million-dollar campaigns, and then you're looking at it and you're like, okay, this is everything. There's no more reports that we can pull. Here's all the keywords. Here's all the strategy. Here's the way the ads are gonna, we did everything. We recorded it. We spent all the money doing everything. We're gonna launch it. It never works the first time. And today, I tell my customers like this: look, no matter where we advertise, you're gonna get screwed in the first 3 months. It is what it is.
That's where we learn and we understand. And we
right,
pivot.
and you optimize the system. So, all right, so you launch it. Whoosh, you're like, there's no sales. What's going on?
We're like barely keeping the doors open, and oh man, that was just it. We hang on to it as long as we can, but I noticed Steve learned a ton from that experience. I learned a ton from that experience, but especially in the funnel, like building it out. And he's like, bro, I'm building this other thing out. So we moved on. Essentially, we stayed together. We definitely connected. We had plenty of conversations, of things we were doing together. And then we kind of split ways after we graduated. He went to work for Russell and did all those funnels there. I went off and built some funnels and did some stuff in marketing with my brother. And then a couple years after he had been Russell's lead funnel builder, he's like, I gotta get out, bro. I gotta do my own thing, I've got this.
So he still had that spirit, I gotta do my own thing.
Yeah, and I'm like, bro, I'm like dying inside a little right now. Like, I need to go do something like big. And he was the funnest person to work with out of all the entrepreneurs I knew in college. And what's interesting is there was only like me and him and maybe a couple other people, you know, that were actually doing stuff in college, you know. Everybody talks.
It's a lot of talking.
It's a lot different than doing.
Yeah. Even this, you know, like renting this room and I brought my entire family. I don't travel anymore without my family. So like, awesome. If I go somewhere, everybody's coming. You know, it's a challenge, right? Like you're like, well, I didn't have no interviews scheduled. Nothing. I was like, we're gonna figure it out. Yeah. Even renting the room, you know, we have to get approval. It's not a simple process. And I'm like, well, what if they come in the middle and they're like, you guys got to go because you're pulling speakers out? Oh man, so I think there's risk in everything, right? Like,
totally.
How do you get past that? How did you were like, okay, I got to do something bigger, and you're like, looking, there's going to be risks involved. What does that feel like for you?
Honestly, I think it's a bigger risk to not do it.
Love that answer.
For me, I can take a low risk and live at a low life, I feel like, in a way. I can take a bigger risk and actually remove that lower risk out of the way. A lot of people are like, oh, I can't do this because there's so much risk in it. And I'm like, what are you doing right now? And what are you not going to be able to do? What are you not going to be able to accomplish in your life because you think there's too much risk in it?
Yeah.
Like, you have a calling, you have something to do. And if you don't take that risk, you're not going to be able to help other people out and yourself.
Right.
Honestly.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. All right. So you're now, you get a call from, how did this Steve Larson reach out? He's like, I got to do my own thing. I'm going. And boom, he calls you. What's that like? You're like, have you guys been talking this entire time?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. We kept in touch. You were friends, distant friends, kind of. Yeah. All right. And then you get a call and he's like, bro, I'm leaving ClickFunnels, right?
Yeah. And I mean, it's kind of crazy because we did keep in touch, and he's like, I'm leaving. I want you to help me out and come with me. And me, I'm like, heck yeah, let's do it, bro. Like, that was so much fun back in college. Like, I'm there, you know? And obviously I've seen what Steve had done over those 2 years too. And I'm like,
right, you paid attention.
I'm like, bro, you are doing what most people are too afraid or think there's too much risk in doing. And you just did it. Like, I'm just going to roll with it. I'm like, that is key to success, honestly.
It's fire.
It's huge. And not many people do that. And they just...
I know. I'm telling you, some people I even interviewed, big, huge, humongous names. They're like, how'd you get the space? How did you? I was like, I did it. You know, like, this is risk. There's thousands of dollars on the line every time I do anything. Yeah. About 1,000 bags. Now there's coronavirus going around. My shipment's probably going to be held at the port. You know, like, so there's risk in everything that we do. So, but I feel like something that's interesting that you said is you had followed and identified, right, that he had that type of fire. He was the risk taker. You also identified it back in college where everybody was all talk, and I feel like the marketing community has a lot of that too, right? A lot of showboating, talk, whatever. Yeah. So what was your strategy in kind of aligning and defining that with the people that you want to affiliate with?
Ooh, interesting. Me and Steve actually talk about this, and we're like, look, if they haven't, even for interviews he's like, if they haven't had 30 episodes on their own podcast, or if they haven't done this or that, if they haven't actually done anything, how can we prove that they're actually going to do anything with us, Right. So we look at that, like people that we bring into the team, people that come in, honestly, it's because they're killers, they're A players. Yeah. And they're doing something right now, they're moving forward. And like back in college, so I'll talk to you guys for a sec. When I started my cell phone business, brick and mortar, it was my first business class. I didn't know anything about business. I had no knowledge. I had no understanding about business itself, marketing. I didn't even know what the heck marketing was at that point. But I knew I wanted to do something. I wanted to go somewhere. And what's funny is I ended up shattering my phone in that business. I demolished it. And so I fixed it myself, and I'm like, oh,
just so you could fix it.
What if I just made this a business, And I just wanted to get somewhere. I wanted to learn. I wanted to do something. So I'm like, I fixed it. I was actually really good. I love doing it. I love taking things apart and understand how they work, I just did it. I just went for it. I literally did one ad. I spent $50 on it, and I made $300 or $400 off of it. And I fixed a few phones. A year and a half later, I owned my own business. Like literally, I had no idea what the heck I was doing. I just started. I just went for it. And that's key, guys. Like so many people get behind I need to learn this and this and this, and I don't understand all of this. If I had business teachers asking me to teach the class on certain things, literally.
Okay. Well, because that's not their area of expertise, and you have the experience that you've went through it. And I think there's something that's understated in the marketing world in general. We don't highlight our failures, right? Like we fail, like I fail forward. That's my entire approach, right? Like so I have 2 levels that I operate on. First, I have my path that I know kind of the direction I'm going, right? Your direction was like, I like taking things apart. I like fixing. I could do this. I'm just gonna do it, no matter the risk, no matter the ups. Yeah. And now what I've seen is the people that do really good, they change their path, and then instead of staying on it. And then same thing for people that are doing bad. They don't plow forward despite of and improve continuously. Even these interviews, right? We got 3, 4K cameras now. Before it was a webcam recordings. It's just continuously improving and making the process better and identifying what the problems are.
Yeah.
What do you have a process for that?
Process for identifying?
Yeah. So you were like, okay, I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna take the risk on it. Worst thing that's gonna happen, I'm gonna get a job, right? Or I'm gonna figure out the next thing or whatever it is, right? Because I get kicked in the balls all the time. Like that's just part of the game, and I understand that. And then I don't change my direction, good or bad, right? So I listen to everything. I just don't. My direction stays forward, and maybe I'll adapt some of the things.
Yeah.
How do you? You guys must have a system now too to identifying these things, right?
Yeah. So
what's that like?
Honestly, I used to think of failure as just that, failure. I used to think of, like I've done all of Steven's events, and trust me, I've had plenty of failures in there.
Yeah, it happens.
I've since, even a couple of years ago, I've since stopped calling it a failure, and now I just call them learning experiences.
I like it. So it's like rewiring.
Exactly.
You rewired your thought process.
And that's the problem is a lot of us, we see a failure and we're like, man, I totally, completely failed at that. I'm not good enough. So I gotta stop, or I gotta quit because I'm not good enough. I failed at it, right? Honestly, if I wouldn't have failed at all of those things I did,
you wouldn't know how to improve.
No, I wouldn't understand that now. I would not have the emotion behind that learning part of what I needed to go through in order to become who I am now. So now we literally look at things like, hey, what do we need to learn from this? Instead of just looking at it as a failure, because if you do, guys, we all fail. We could essentially just call ourselves failures and go sit in a corner and mope, and totally. Never progress. But if you look at it as, okay, I failed, really I learned. What did I learn from that? And now what do I need to change in order to not have that failure or learning experience again? So that's that's really just the way we look at it. Hey, that didn't work out. Why? Why did that not work out?
What can we fix on the back end?
How can we pivot?
And it seems like from watching, and I'm outside watching in, right? It looks like that's kind of how your team runs as well. Is like, okay, this didn't go the way we planned. What can we fix there? And I see it because I've been following you guys, so I see kind of like little bits and pieces that you do share, and I see the progression of the loop that you guys work on, right? Like, okay, we got to fix this. We got to improve this. That there's a failing here. Let's put it on the board, and we'll get to it as we're moving through this stuff. Is there fear that comes with each time that you hit like kind of a roadblock, and you're like, or is it more like, how do we resolve this? Is there fear that hits everybody? Oh, we spent, I don't know, $50,000 an event, and we only sold 100 tickets so far, and we don't even know if we're going to cover the cost of the event, whatever. Is it, how do you deal with the fear of maybe this is not going to work out before it fails, right? Before you're facing your first roadblock, and maybe it's a conference room that you rented, and then like they go, oh, well, you can't have it no more, and you've sold 100 tickets, or maybe you didn't sell enough tickets, or whatever the roadblock is. What's kind of the feeling that goes behind it, and how do you get past it?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's always fear. I've gotten a lot better. I don't have nearly as much fear in these things because we've done them now. But the first one, there's always that fear
Of course. New, right?
Yeah, it's new. What if it doesn't work? What if nobody shows up? You know, what if it's a complete failure and people see us as a failure after that because we tried to throw an event and nobody came, you know? And honestly, like, there's always a way to kind of, I mean, not that we've actually had or failed that way, but there's always a way to position it and teach that failure to help other people succeed. Now, I'll be honest, our first, so Offermind, 2018, we have these big dreams, we have all this, it's gonna turn out good. And honestly, we sold, I think it was like 200 tickets right there, which is a small,
it's a good small event.
It's a good event for our first event, you know?
It's a great event for any first event, yes.
But it's still a really small event if you start comparing to other people's events. But for our own event, that's amazing. That's awesome, you know? Like, I can see that as a complete success.
Like it.
And even if only 160 people show up, which is a 20% no-show all the time. Just guaranteed, just
it's
bank
more
on
than that even, but yeah.
Yeah, at least that. I feel like we've been able to increase that anyway. But we're hoping to, you know, sell a product that we think can change people's lives at this event in order to make the money back to pay for it. And honestly, we didn't. I mean, we sold something, but it didn't pay for it right then.
Yeah, it didn't. You didn't get immediate reciprocation.
Yeah, and we didn't get as many as we would hoped, or there was a ton of learning experiences there. But it's like I stopped seeing it just as failure, but like I've now learned I don't really have that kind of fear behind all of these things because every time something like that happens, we just dig into it. Why did that happen? And we
figure out how to avoid it for next time.
Yeah, we figure out how to avoid it, but we also publish that failure so other people can learn from it too. And then I've told you I've stopped looking at it as failure, but just it's exciting now.
Yeah.
And I almost like to fail in something. Not that I purposely do it.
No, of course not.
But I love.
But you like the learning experience of it. You're like, okay, well, I messed up here, here, and here. The next one I'm gonna do but you have something that I want to say very little people that are entrepreneurs have, and that is drive. People don't have that. They're expecting just, you know, flowers and butterflies, you know, and first of all, business in general is similar to war in the fact that it's dog eat dog, and people will do whatever they can do to support their family. If right now this cooler bag had food in it and it was the only food on the planet, you would run me over to get it because you have a family, you have people to care for, and maybe you have an audience that you want to feed or whatever. And I feel like business is very similar to that in the sense that we're all trying to not only make a difference on the world, but also provide for our family, friends, and the people around us. So I totally get that. So I like the learning experience aspect of it. I think that's huge, and I think the audience is going to get a real benefit from it. So now that you're more experienced and you've gotten kind of like a pattern of success, right? You know kind of what to avoid. What are things that you look for now when you're setting things up that you wouldn't have never looked for before? What are these epiphanies that hit you when you do fail that now change the way that your process works? Do you take notes on them? Do you plan them?
Okay. So have you mentioned we're at Funnel Hacking Live?
We're at Funnel Hacking Live. Yeah.
Is that okay that I mentioned that?
Of course. Look, I love the funnel hacking community. I love funnel hackers. Like you see, I am a funnel hacker. I have CF right in front of my chef hat. No, I'm all about it.
Cool.
I love ClickFunnels.
Cool. Yeah.
And the community here for sure.
Honestly, most of the time I go to an event, it's so that I can see their processes.
I've seen the improvements they made even this year from last year.
Every year. And if you don't change, if you don't make it any different, if I show up this year and it's the same exact as last year, why am I going to come next year?
Yeah. What's going to be there?
If it's not going to give me a new epiphany, if it's not going to help me go farther, why would I come back? I'm just saying. Sorry, did you have a comment?
No. That's I study Disney and Amazon like as companies, and I've met with Imagineers, and I love their process. So like, let me tell you this because it's gonna blow your mind. You're like, how does this work? But so they have a mastermind for Disney Imagineers. Disney Imagineers work on anything under $5 million. They don't need permission from corporate to do. Okay. Just keep that in mind for now. So their whole job is Disney experience for the consumers, to make sure the consumers are happy, they're problem solving. I'll give you an example. They just did a total reno to Pirates of the Caribbean ride because this is in the theme park, not outside. Because Me Too movement, and there was pirates selling women, and they didn't want that, so they made the pirate selling women and men now cost $2.5 million to change that scene, by the way. And they made it a female pirate selling random people, and they took a prisoner or whatever.
Interesting.
And as I sit there and I'm like, okay, so what's the process? Because like for me, it's about process, it's about systems, it's about how do they get to these changes that need to happen for the customers. And she told me that, they have a mastermind, it's called Blue Sky, and it's cloud-based. And every time that they get problems, then the key Imagineer in that department will post, here's the resolution for it. They have 70,000 Imagineers, then we'll comment on that with direction.
Wow.
Oh, no, it should be this, it should be that. Then it goes from that to an analyst team that will take all those hundreds of thousands of comments and distill it into an action plan.
Find the commonalities. Okay.
Yeah, distill it into an action plan, and then it goes back to the head Imagineering team to take care of it.
Interesting.
Capital projects works a little different, but they're over $5 million, or like new rides or new films that they need to shoot to keep the storylines in their parks moving and all that stuff.
Yeah.
You're just like, whoa.
That's a little bit more in depth than our process. But yeah.
What type of process do you put in so you can make the leap forward every time that you do something?
I'll tell you, there is a process that we go through every time, and I'll kind of go through the overview of it. So every time we do an event, now here's the problem: a lot of people don't get into the creative zone.
Right.
They don't allow themselves. They say, okay, well, I just have to get it done. What do I just need to get it done and make it happen, whatever it may be? Right. They don't allow themselves to get in the creative zone and start asking why questions.
That's Einstein right there, my friend.
And so it's exactly what we do. Like, okay, well, first off, why are we doing this event? So we go through and we list out to help people change their lives in marketing and help them understand these key points that can just blow their offers up, right? Now, what is it that we can do that can just make this experience crazy? And we go to the crazy zone of this. We start just listing out everything and anything. I don't know if you've heard about the time when Russell Brunson's like, yeah, we just start writing down, like, what if they came and had a sleepover at my house? What if I let them use my toothbrush, Like, we do that every time because, and as soon as you say one negative thing, like, no, we can't do that, it kills that whole creative process.
So everything is allowed.
Everything.
We should ride elephants in blue elephant. We should spray paint blue elephants, get on them and ride into the event.
Exactly. So we have the green hat and then the black hat.
Okay.
So we do the green hat every time, and that's our creative zone, our creative process. Okay, what if we did this? That would be like an amazing experience for all these people coming in. Yeah, what if we did this with that, And we just start listing out, we just start writing stuff. And there's no negativity at all in that entire process. It is nothing but, this would be crazy.
Everything will be awesome.
We can take them around town in limos and like make it nuts. And
well, you did that.
We did that.
Yeah.
But we didn't.
Everything is awesome.
Right? We wouldn't have thought about that if we wouldn't have gone through just this exercise. And if you've never seen IDEO, ever heard of IDEO, all they do is kind of this process. And you can look up their process. It's very well the same process we go through. And so we have this whole green hat process of, let's just make it nuts. Like, this is going to be insane. And we're just listing out. And then once we can tell we're kind of winding down a little bit and it's not flowing as much, we're like, okay, now let's go through and black hat it all. What are the issues with this one? can we actually pull it off? Is it possible, you know? And some of these things you might think that's not actually possible. But what if there's an iteration?
Yeah. What if there's we
that
change it just a tiny bit to make it work?
That is possible.
Yeah.
And that's honestly how we come up with a lot of it. You know, it's one thing I've noticed is a lot of people don't believe that they're actually capable of doing such thing. And so they won't. And now my action will be, I'm going to see if I can do that.
Yeah, it's sort of like the breaking the minimum miles sort of.
Right? And so I look at myself a lot and I'm like, man, I don't know if I can, wait. I just told myself, I don't know if I can do that. I literally like, okay, well, how come I believe that I can't do that? Where can I go to find out who has done that so I can figure it out and change my own belief?
Figure it out, yeah.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, we all do that. So honestly, I look at a lot of people, and this is another problem in business, is we look at people's actions. We're like, why the heck did you do that? Like, why did you screw up this? Why did you do this? And we attack their action. You'll never change that action until you change the belief that's under that action, ever. And so, honestly, with my team, with people around me, I love it when they come to me and they're like, man, I can't do this, you know, like I'm not capable of it. And I'm like, tell me why. Why you think that? Why do you believe that you're not that? I'm like, okay. I'm like, let me tell you a little story. Let me talk to you. Let me show you this guy. And I try to introduce them because then now they're like, wait a second, this is possible. Maybe I can do it. And I'm starting to change that belief. And I see people actually go out and do things that they can. I believe I can throw crazy events. I believe that I can change the emotion of that event when people come in to just transform them into something else. I believe we can pull off something as big as Funnel Hacking Live.
It's not unachievable. I think you could even do bigger, but you know, like it's
go farther. So, so hopefully that helps a little bit on the process.
Amazing.
There. Green hat, black hat.
I like that. I like that a lot, and I'm sure our audience is going to really enjoy that. Well, thank you so much for being here. I know you got a million things. It was tough to get him here. All right, but I'm so glad that you did come. I'm sure there's going to be tons of value for them. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. We will see you on the next one.